If you experience childhood trauma, this video might completely change how you see your past. What if I told you that according to Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, your deepest childhood wounds weren't just random suffering, but actually contained a hidden spiritual purpose? Today, we're diving deep into Jung's revolutionary perspective on how childhood trauma can become the very foundation for your greatest gifts and life's calling. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand why your pain might be your greatest teacher. First, let's understand Jung's groundbreaking discovery about human psychology. Our most painful experiences often carry the seeds of our greatest transformation. He believed that childhood trauma doesn't just damage us, it actually forces us into what he called the individuation process, the journey of becoming who we're truly meant to be. Think about it. When you experience deep pain as a child, you're forced to develop inner resources that others might never need to access. These aren't just survival mechanisms, they're the building blocks of wisdom, empathy, and strength that will serve you throughout your life. What's fascinating is that Jung noticed a pattern among his patients who had experienced childhood trauma. Many of them possessed an almost supernatural ability to understand others' pain, to offer comfort in ways that seemed to come from a deep well of knowing. This led him to the concept of the wounded healer, someone whose personal wounds become the source of their healing power for others. Consider the therapist who overcame addiction and now helps others in recovery, or the teacher who was bullied as a child and creates the safest classroom environment imaginable. Their trauma didn't just teach them survival, it gave them a mission. Building on this foundation, Jung viewed childhood trauma as a form of spiritual initiation. While others might live on the surface of life, trauma survivors are forced to dive deep into the mysteries of existence. You're compelled to ask the big questions. Why do I suffer? What's the meaning of life? How can I heal? This isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're being prepared to access deeper layers of your unconscious mind, where profound wisdom and creative potential lie waiting. Your trauma becomes the key that unlocks these hidden chambers of your psyche. In many ancient cultures, spiritual initiations involve deliberate hardship designed to break down the ego and reveal the true self. Similarly, Jung believed that childhood trauma serves as an involuntary initiation that strips away illusions and forces you to confront fundamental truths about existence. The difference between trauma survivors and others isn't just in their experiences, it's in their depth of understanding. They've been forced to wrestle with darkness, to find light in the deepest shadows, and to develop a relationship with suffering that transforms it into wisdom. Furthermore, this spiritual initiation often awakens what Jung called the religious function. Not necessarily organized religion, but a deep sense of connection to something greater than oneself. Many trauma survivors report experiencing profound spiritual awakenings, mystical experiences, or a sudden understanding of their place in the larger cosmic order. Consequently, when you experience childhood trauma, Jung believed it awakens what he called the transcendent function, your psyche's natural ability to bridge the conscious and unconscious mind. This creates a unique form of self-awareness that allows you to see patterns, understand human nature, and access insights that others might miss. Your painful experiences taught you to read between the lines, to understand what people aren't saying, to recognize emotional patterns. These aren't just survival skills, they're gifts that can help you become a healer, guide, or teacher for others. Most importantly, the transcendent function doesn't just help you understand others. It helps you understand yourself at a level that most people never reach. You develop what Jung called psychological mindedness, the ability to see the deeper motivations, fears, and desires that drive human behavior. This heightened awareness often manifests as exceptional intuition, emotional intelligence, and the ability to hold space for others' pain without being overwhelmed by it. You become a bridge between the conscious and unconscious worlds, helping others access parts of themselves they might never have discovered otherwise. Now, let's explore how this process works on a deeper psychological level. Jung taught that childhood trauma creates what he called complexes, emotionally charged clusters of ideas and feelings in our unconscious. While these complexes can cause problems when left unexamined, they contain tremendous power when properly understood and integrated. Your complexes hold the map to your unique psychological blueprint. They show you exactly where you need to develop mastery, where you need to heal, and ultimately, where you're meant to offer healing to the world. Think of complexes as emotional knots that contain both the wound and the medicine. For example, if you have a complex around abandonment, it might manifest as clinginess or avoidance in relationships. However, when you work with this complex consciously, it can transform into an extraordinary gift for creating secure, lasting connections with others. What's remarkable is that Jung discovered these complexes aren't just personal. They often connect to what he called archetypal patterns that exist in the collective unconscious. Your personal trauma taps into universal human experiences, which is why your healing journey can resonate so deeply with others who have similar wounds. Additionally, the integration of these complexes requires what Jung called active imagination, the ability to dialogue with the unconscious parts of yourself. This process not only heals your personal wounds, but also develops your capacity to help others integrate their own psychological material. Before we continue, if this perspective on trauma is resonating with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps me create more content about Jung's transformative insights. Also, drop a comment below and share one way your childhood challenges might have shaped your strengths today. Moving forward, Jung observed that our greatest suffering often points directly toward our life's calling. The areas where you experience the most pain often become the areas where you develop the most expertise and compassion. This isn't coincidence. It's the psyche's natural tendency to transform wounds into wisdom. If you experienced abandonment, you might become gifted at creating safe spaces for others. If you faced criticism, you might develop extraordinary empathy and acceptance. If you felt powerless, you might become passionate about empowering others. However, this transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires what Jung called conscious suffering, the willingness to stay present with your pain long enough to extract its lessons. Many people try to bypass their trauma or suppress it, but Jung believed that only by fully experiencing and integrating our wounds can we access their transformative power. The key insight here is that your trauma didn't just happen to you. It happened for a reason that extends beyond your personal experience. Your specific wounds were designed to develop specific capacities within you that the world desperately needs. The child who felt unseen might become the adult who truly sees others. The child who felt unheard might become the voice for the voiceless. Equally important, Jung believed that when we heal our personal trauma, we're not just healing ourselves, we're healing the collective unconscious. Your individual healing journey contributes to the healing of humanity as a whole. This gives your suffering a cosmic purpose that extends far beyond your personal experience. You're not just a victim of your circumstances, you're a wounded healer on a mission to transform not just your own pain, but to help others transform theirs. Your trauma becomes a gift you can offer to the world. This concept connects to Jung's understanding of synchronicity, the meaningful coincidences that seem to guide our lives. Often, trauma survivors find themselves in situations where their specific wounds and healing journey are exactly what someone else needs to witness or experience. It's as if the universe conspires to put you where your particular medicine is most needed. Moreover, Jung believed that unhealed trauma creates what he called psychic inflation in the collective unconscious, a kind of emotional pressure that affects everyone. When you heal your personal wounds, you're literally reducing the amount of unprocessed pain in the human experience. Your healing creates ripples that extend far beyond what you can see or imagine. In addition to its healing purpose, childhood trauma often forces you to develop psychological resources that remain dormant in others. You learn to be resourceful, resilient, and intuitive. You develop a deep understanding of human nature and emotional dynamics. These aren't just coping mechanisms, they're superpowers waiting to be fully realized. Jung would say that your trauma cracked you open so that your true essence could emerge. The light that shines through your cracks isn't evidence of your brokenness, It's evidence of your transformation. What's particularly fascinating is that trauma survivors often develop what researchers now call post-traumatic growth. Not just returning to their previous level of functioning, but actually surpassing it. They become more creative, more spiritually aware, more appreciative of life, and more capable of deep, meaningful relationships. This aligns perfectly with Jung's understanding of the individuation process. Trauma accelerates your psychological development, forcing you to confront aspects of yourself and life that others might avoid for decades. While this process is painful, it ultimately leads to a level of self-awareness and authenticity that becomes your greatest strength. Therefore, according to Jung, those who experience significant childhood trauma are often called to become healers in some form. This doesn't necessarily mean becoming a therapist. It could mean becoming a teacher, artist, writer, coach, or simply someone who creates safe spaces for others to heal. Your pain has given you credentials that no degree can provide. You understand suffering from the inside out, and that understanding is exactly what others need to hear. What's crucial to understand is that this calling isn't optional. It's an integral part of your psychological development. Jung believed that when we ignore our calling, we experience what he termed divine discontent, a persistent sense of unfulfillment that no external achievement can satisfy. Many trauma survivors report feeling different from others, as if they're carrying some invisible burden or mission. Jung would say this isn't a burden, it's a recognition of your true purpose. Your sensitivity to pain, your ability to hold space for others' suffering, your deep understanding of human nature, these aren't weaknesses to overcome, but gifts to be shared. Furthermore, the healing you offer others doesn't have to be dramatic or obvious. Sometimes it's simply the way you listen, the compassion in your eyes, or the authenticity you bring to your relationships. Your very presence becomes healing because you've learned to transform suffering into love. Finally, the ultimate purpose of childhood trauma, according to Jung, is to force you into the individuation process, the journey of becoming your authentic self. Trauma strips away the false personas and societal expectations, revealing your true nature underneath. While others might live their entire lives without ever questioning who they really are, your trauma demanded that you excavate your authentic self. This painful process of self-discovery is actually the hero's journey in disguise. Jung emphasized that individuation isn't about becoming perfect or eliminating all your problems. Instead, it's about becoming whole, integrating all aspects of yourself, including the wounded parts, into a coherent, authentic identity. Your trauma becomes not something to be cured, but something to be integrated. This integration process often involves what Jung called holding the tension of opposites, learning to contain both your wounded and healed aspects simultaneously. You become someone who can hold both joy and sorrow, strength and vulnerability, wisdom and innocence. This capacity to hold paradox is what makes you uniquely qualified to help others navigate their own complex emotional landscapes. Moreover, Jung believed that those who successfully integrate their trauma often develop what he called psychological citizenship, the ability to serve the collective good through their individual healing. Your personal transformation becomes a contribution to the evolution of human consciousness itself. So if you've experienced childhood trauma, I want you to consider this. What if your pain wasn't meaningless suffering, but actually a sacred initiation into your life's purpose? What if your wounds were precisely what qualified you to help heal others? What if your trauma was the universe's way of preparing you for something greater? Jung would remind us that our greatest wounds often become our greatest gifts. Your childhood trauma didn't happen to you. It happened for you, and through you, for the healing of others. If this video has shifted your perspective on childhood trauma, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Your sharing could be the catalyst for someone else's healing journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights from Carl Jung and other transformative thinkers. And remember, your pain has purpose, your wounds contain wisdom, and your healing journey is a gift to the world.